Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Thrive in Five podcast. This is episode 11, I believe, which is the furthest I've ever got with a podcast before. So I am very, very excited about this. I'm recording this episode on a Sunday going into Monday, and you're probably listening to this maybe on a Monday, maybe at a different point. And thinking about the week you've got ahead of you, the period of time ahead of you, and wondering how you are going to find some balance in the professional world, this idea of work-life balance is really pushed to us. I think it's something that came maybe off the back of COVID. I think it was around before then, but COVID, I think, really hit home the importance of having work and life in balance. And this idea that, we should be living a life outside of work and that we shouldn't be living for our jobs and that we have that sense of balance. I personally, I think it's a great thing that employers even are really pushing this idea and want employees to have a life outside of work. But I think often the idea of work-life balance actually creates more stress and pressure than perhaps is helpful. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about why work-life balance is a little bit of a myth and give you maybe a different way to think about how you spend your time between work and everything outside of work. The idea of having perfect work-life balance creates really unrealistic expectations and pressure, particularly for women. Whether you are someone who has children or not, women bear a massive amount of the home load, if you like. I know in my relationship, I'm the one who does a lot of the laundry and the cooking and make sure the food is okay. Women are often the ones who are more under pressure to take care of things outside of work. And the idea of work-life balance is much easier for somebody who hasn't got a lot of stuff going on outside of work. It is much easier to have downtime and to find balance between the two when you're not trying to take care of things outside of work. So that's one of the reasons I find this idea of work-life balance quite unhelpful. But we also often think of work-life balance as having an equal split of time between work and life being family, health and fitness, downtime, fun time, social time, whatever that might be. And that's just not the reality when you have a professional career. If you are somebody who has worked hard to get the career that you have, has studied, has maybe done professional exams, has worked hard to get promoted and to get moved up the ranks, your career and your work is a big priority for you and it will take up time in your life. And to expect yourself to be able to have that balance between work and life be completely equal is maybe a little bit unfair on work and maybe a bit unfair on life too. That balance is never going to be a truly equal split. There'll be times where maybe work takes up more of your time. There'll be times where work is less of a priority, where you do have more time for life. But that balance is never really truly an equal split. And it's about adjusting to what's most important in the moment for you. Because the idea of balance, of having work-life balance, is often linked to perfectionism and that idea that we just have everything perfectly sorted and in line every single day. Something that I see with every single woman that I work with is an element of perfectionism, an element of wanting to get something perfectly right. And work-life balance also falls victim to this. I see it so many times. I've spoken to the team about this, where they'll come in and go, I just need to have better work-life balance. I just need to have more time for life outside of work. And they'll plan out how that should look. I'm definitely going to finish work at 5:30 today, and I'm going to make sure that I'm home and I can do this, and this before I go to bed. And then life happens, a train gets delayed, or you can't finish work at 5:30 because even though your job might say 9 to 5, it's really 8 till 7. And then you get frustrated with yourself that you can't get it perfectly. And that leads you to feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And eventually, chasing that perfect work-life balance can actually lead to burnout. It's the thing that we're told will help us not get burnt out, but trying to achieve that is so overwhelming and so stressful. It can make you get to burnout. So we've already established that work-life balance is a myth and that it is linked to perfectionism. And you are probably somebody, if you're listening to this podcast, who relates to that, who sits there and goes, yeah, I find work-life balance really hard. I find it really hard to work out how to balance everything I have going on. And I'm constantly feeling like I'm getting it wrong. That's the thing I see a lot with work-life balance. And it's something that I really struggled with. I'd look at other people at work or other people, friends of mine, and they would be talking about the life they had outside of work and how they were balancing everything. And I'd be like, what am I missing? Why can't I get this right? Why am I unable to find the way to do this? And the thing that I was missing, the thing a lot of professional women miss, is that flexibility is key. And that can be really difficult when we exist in a world that requires kind of drive and discipline and kind of sticking to things and gritting your teeth and digging in. But instead of aiming for a perfect balance, we need to aim for flexibility, because life is fluid, like demands on our time and our energy and things we have to do, those ebb and flow depending on what we have going on. So being flexible means that we are able to adapt when life gets busy and not stress when things aren't balanced. It's not about ignoring health and fitness. It's not about like ignoring the stuff you have going on outside of work. It's about adjusting as you need to. And I'll give an example here from my own personal life, actually, that might help bring this to life. So there was a point of time where I was working in a job as a chief of staff. I talk about this job quite a lot because it was probably the most intense job I've ever had. And I thought I needed to have more work-life balance. I was growing up a little bit. I just bought my first house. I was wanting to, spend more time doing work-life balancey things. I wanted to be able to like go out for a meal after work, or like go to the gym in the morning. I was trying to work out how I would fit all these things in. I was really struggling because it was so busy. Like it was so busy at work. And there were particular periods that were busier. Year-end results were always busy. When we had big projects going on, big deals, if my boss, because being a chief of staff, a lot of my busyness related to what my boss was doing, if she was busy, then I was busy. And what I would then do is get really frustrated with myself that I couldn't do the things I wanted to do and almost hit that fuck it button and go, well, what's the point? What's the point of trying? But then a few months later, my diary suddenly looked a lot better and I was suddenly a lot less busy. My boss was away traveling for a few weeks. So I had a lot more free time because I wasn't as tied to what she needed to do. I could work from home every now and again, which was quite nice. I could leave work a little bit earlier. I had maybe a little bit more time at lunchtime. And so work-life balance for me didn't look like having, a perfect split between work and life every single week. It actually looked like finding that balance between work stuff and life stuff across the course of months. And so it meant that there were times when I pulled back on life stuff and I kind of said to my partner, look, like I'll be home for dinner, but I'm not going to be having like a huge amount of like stuff going on in the evening. Let's do something at the weekend. But work is a big priority at the moment. But then it meant that there were other times in the year when I could go, actually, like I've got more free time. Let's go out for a meal after work, come up to London and meet me. Like, let's do something. I had that flexibility and that ability to balance in a slightly different way to maybe what I expected. And the moral of that, I suppose, is find what works for you. Something we always talk about at the TFP is that we don't try and make you fit a process. We find a process that works for you. It's all about looking at what your life is going on, what you've got going on, how your work life looks, like what your career looks like. Some of my clients have careers that are pretty consistent, that across the weeks it kind of looks the same. Others will have careers where actually work is really busy at some times and we have to kind of pull things back, and work is less busy at other times, so we can push a little bit harder. And it's about flexing, because balance looks different for everyone and will change week to week, day to day, or even hour to hour. So it's about creating a rhythm that fits your life and adjusting as your circumstances change. So give yourself permission to adapt and be flexible rather than stressing over trying to have this perfect work-life balance. As we've said, work-life balance is a myth as we look at it across the way it's talked about at the moment. No amount of having like bring your own device apps and like the ability to work from home, that's not work-life balance. Work-life balance is about having time for yourself outside of work, not just working in different locations. Just want to make that clear. And it's not about having a perfect split between work and life. It's about being flexible and adjusting based on what your life needs at that moment. What balance looks like will look different for everyone. And I think if you take anything from my story, do not compare how you are balancing work and life to how someone else is doing it, because no one has the same 24 hours in a day, despite what anybody says. We all have different priorities. We all have different careers, different demands on our time, different ways of using that time, different things that we have going on outside of work. It is okay that your version of work-life balance looks different to somebody else's, so long as it works for you. And remember that work is our priority and it will take up time, and that is okay. What we're going to want to do is focus on being flexible, not on being perfect. I hope that made sense. Tomorrow, I'm going to chat through the importance of boundaries and how that is really important for having work-life balance. So look out for that episode. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.